Hi everyone, very good morning, and welcome you all to the webinar. I hope I'm audible. Kindly confirm in the chat if you can all hear the voice clearly. Assuming I should be audible. Thank you for the confirmation. Very good morning. Welcome you all to the webinar on generative AI. My name is Anshu. I'm going to be the speaker for this webinar today for next 1 hour. I'll be talking about a lot around generative AI and how does it works in general, what is prompt engineering, and what do we need to learn when it comes to prompt engineering in general, and how the whole landscape looks like, what's the future prospect going forward. So that's the high level agenda. Let's go ahead and get started. Just to confirm, we can also have a Q&A section at the end. So if you've got any questions, you can keep that in park for the end Q&A section. Here we go. The first thing to start with, we'll begin with the whole agenda. So agenda includes the first section, we talk about the introduction to AI, what exactly AI is in general, and then context related to what is generative AI. So in general, what is artificial intelligence? AI is a way of making computers, machines to imitate the human intelligence. For example, the way we humans can solve complex problems, can recognize our friends and family members looking at their faces, can drive car, can speak in multiple languages, can ride a bike. In all of these ways, we humans don't make any calculations. We uh, kind of take assumptions and learn to improve on these tasks. And AI is about building a similar level of intelligence in machines and computers where it can perform as good as humans in majority of these segments. So the way we humans can recognize our friends and family members and colleagues by looking at their faces, the face recognition system having similar intelligence is an example of AI solution. The way we humans can drive our car, ride a bike, maybe driving car similar to that self-driving car system is an example of AI solution. So it's about, in some aspect, we make computers being able to imitate the human intelligence. And today we develop AI systems in different prospects. What we do is we primarily, as scientists or AI engineers, the AI engineers primarily try to integrate the intelligent capability with existing machines and computers. In nutshell, developers or engineers don't develop anything from very scratch or don't make inventions when it comes to developing AI solutions. What they essentially do is with the existing machines and computers, which could be, let's say, starting from car to maybe a washing machine, or maybe a web app, or a mobile app, what we try to do is in some capacity, we integrate intelligence with it. For example, with a web app integrating a face recognition or a voice recognition system, or else a customer service engine in the form of a chatbot could be an example of an AI solution integrated to it. And that's how we develop the AI enabled web app or maybe AI based mobile app. Essentially, it's primarily a way to integrate intelligence in some capacity to existing software tools and machines, kiosk hardware. That's how we define AI. If you ask technically what it is, right? Or maybe how do you integrate intelligence with it, or where do you bring it from? How does it look like? But the answer to that is technically AI is a collection of algorithms, right? Technically, AI is a collection of algorithms, so many algorithms. We sort of pick these algorithms and provide some data to these algorithms in some cases and program them using a tool, let's say, which could be Python framework. And that's how we build intelligence. The intelligence object is what we refer as model quite often. So it could be a face recognition model, voice recognition model, a chatbot model, language translation model, so on and so forth. And those models get integrated with existing web, mobile, washing machine, car, kiosk, anything. That integration happens via something called API. Right? API is a way to program to enable certain systems, accept connections and answer the questions or fulfill the requests. So technically, AI is a way to integrate intelligent models via APIs with existing systems. That's how we develop AI-based solution in modern day. Today, AI is quite widespread. Today, we use AI in multiple different segment aspects. For example, If you've been using Google Maps some other day to navigate from one location to another, or else using Google Search, alternatively ChatGPT, or else you've been using Google Translate to translate data from one language to another. You have got Alexa at your home or office, Siri in your phone. In many of these ways, we use AI almost every day. In majority of these ways, the intelligent abilities integrated with the software that we interact with help us to be more efficient, multitasking, and solve problems at lesser time. On a whole, as a user, these abilities or capabilities help us to be more efficient and improves our user experience. Consequently, we be more loyal to the organizations that we get service from, or we start trusting the organization at all, like the way we like Google or Apple or Microsoft. The reason we like them and we are their loyal customers is because these organizations have been utilizing AI for quite long in order to improve our user experience. In many of these ways, it has proved that intelligent integrations or intelligence integrations with machines and computers help in improving the product capability and user experience, consequently helping improving overall growth of the organization. And that proof has made it possible for multiple organizations to start thinking in this direction and enabling AI integrations or development solutions in their business processes across the domains, starting from healthcare to manufacturing, mining to government agencies of them. So today, the key factors which are driving the need for AI include availability of data. Majority of the AI solutions are backed by machine learning algorithms and they learn from data. Availability of data in last 2 decades have made it possible for organizations to think beyond rule-based systems and adopt model-based systems by machine learning trained on the top of the huge amount of data. Automate the training process to keep the system as optimum as possible for longer run. Achieve automation in multiple different tasks, reduce the human capital, and achieve consequently operational efficiency. The need to achieve operational efficiency, the need to reduce the cost of delivery of service, the need to improve the customer experience in ever-changing world are the key drivers why organizations are moving towards AI adoption with open hands. Some of the sectors like finance, healthcare, and e-commerce have been the front runners in adoption to AI solutions and technologies. The adoption has been so fast that it is estimated by 2025 the market size is going to exceed more than $190 billion in the segment to machine learning, natural language processing, and AI hardware. In fact, the key $1 trillion companies today that you look at in the market are the one which are front runners in AI adoption and providing AI-based solutions. Some of the very popular real-world applications of AI today in the market include healthcare, performing predictive analytics to forecast the outbreaks. Quite similar way, finance have been using AI in multiple different ways, starting from algorithmic trading to fraud detection, anti-money laundering to customer service, recommending credit cards to loans to customers, automating multiple systems for security check, validation, authentication to authorization of customers, identifying anomalous behavior in customer access management, providing them end-to-end security solutions. Finance and banking have been front runners to adopt AI and analytics in their business. And so it goes for e-commerce as well in multiple different forms, starting from product recommendations to customer service, adopting AI in different channels. And these are the industries which are, as I mentioned, front runners of AI adoption today and are exploring multiple different ways to integrate different horizons or segments of AI with the business processes as much as so as to reduce the cost, improve the quality, and the user experience at the end. On a whole, let's jump on to the key topic of the day that we're interested into from AI to generative AI. So the question is, what is generative AI? If you look at the whole spectrum of AI on the left side of the screen, AI is a broader segment which talks about primarily enabling intelligence with machines and computers. A very popular way in the modern day world to achieve that is to use machine learning algorithms. So majority of the AI solutions being implemented today are actually built on the top of machine learning algorithms. Machine learning algorithms primarily need data to learn from. Without data, you can't build an ML solution for your business domain. With availability of data, machine learning has gained a lot more popularity in last 2 decades. And then in last 1 decade, a further segment of that, which is deep learning, has emerged like anything. And modern day, very advanced solutions in the space of vision and speech and content are actually built on the top of deep learning. With some of the key recent advancements in last 5 years, the deep learning space has quite a lot evolved to the generative AI space. And that's where a new space which is emerging from last few years is generative AI. So almost all the developments in generative AI are results of the effort of put in developing state-of-art deep learning algorithms and solutions. That's where algorithmically or technically you can consider that all the technologies built on generative AI are actually coming from the deep learning segment. On the whole, the overall developments in AI started out back in 1956, right? And then it stayed quite at a low level with the availability of computers and the availability of computers across the businesses back in 1990s to 2000. The machine learning segment started to emerge up quite a lot. And in fact, post 2000, people started even adopting it at a good level. In recent time, 2010 to 15, this segment of deep learning has emerged since the ILSVRC competition versus multiple different competitions, which kind of pushed the whole deep learning world, deep learning developments and research and capabilities to the world. And in recent 2, 3 years, the space of generative AI has gained a lot more popularity. Well, that doesn't mean that generative AI started existing since 2021. The very initial level of research started happening back in 2014, 12 to 14 itself. And in space of language models in 2016 to 18, Google has published multiple papers in attention-based model and transformer-based approach. So as API, OpenAI as well built GPT model in the early 18 and 18. So generative AI on a whole is a segment which is emerged from deep learning space. So still it is part of AI. Now, whatever is AI, which is not generative AI, is the AI which is used to discriminate between applications. A quick way to understand generative versus discriminative is if you feed an image or maybe two images to a machine learning model and it will tell you whether, well, these two images are of two different objects, maybe one is of cat, the other is of dog. That's where the model is trying to discriminate between two given inputs. That's an example of discriminative intelligent model. Another could be generative model. You tell a model the description of how a cat looks like, and it can generate an image like that. That's an example of generative AI solution. Let's talk more about generative AI in the consecutive slide in order to get more clarity around it. First thing, machine learning and deep learning space have been evolving quite a lot in recent years, and with the some of the key developments which started out primarily with generative adversarial network. This was a generative AI effort in the direction of image generation, which led to bringing attention towards generative AI space across the world. And furthermore, advancements such as variational autoencoders, which can perform quite well in extracting certain features and generating images with fixed set of features. And furthermore, in recent last 5 years, the developments in large language models such as GPT, BERT, DeepSeek has led to furthermore interest from researchers and industries in the space of language generation. Some of these generative models are the key models widely being used today across different spaces. How does exactly generative AI works? If we try to understand that from an image perspective, here's an example. Well, what we try to do is we try to train a model with huge amount of trained data. Let's say in case of image, a lot of images of horses and maybe giraffe or maybe zebra as well. Once we train the model with a lot of such images, the model learns quite well how a horse or a zebra or a giraffe looks like. And then if you provide some random noise or maybe a description, the model can actually generate one of the images. So that's where this is an example of generative model, which is trained with huge amount of data and it learns how different objects look like. And whenever a random noise or a description is fed, it can generate the image like that. The same way text-based model also work. Let's say GPT could be trained with billions and billions of records across the internet. Once it has learned from that, the moment you ask any question or you provide any prompt to it, it can generate text associated with that. In general, the training data set in this case could consist of multiple images of horses, the model trained to capture complex relationship between different pixels of horses, and then it learns to generate those pixels when the description is given. Such models or applications could be used in many ways. In case of images, it could be used for data augmentation or else generating any marketing campaign images or else the images for any other commercial or business purposes. Also, it is generative AI space is quite widely used in the space of NLP, natural language processing, for text generation, similarity matching, question answering to language translation. The benefit of having such capability to the industry is that it helps in automating a lot of complex applications across the business processes, reducing the amount of human effort required for a specific business process, consequently improving the efficiency of business process and reduce the cost of delivery. The reduced cost of delivery can be consequently visible in the reduced cost of service as well. So this was about a quick short understanding to generative AI. Let's summarize this with the next slide. So let's summarize this here. What is generative AI? Let's talk about it again in a quick go. So generative AI is a set of machine learning or deep learning algorithms which can generate data given a certain context. The data could be generating text, generating image, generating music. This technology helps quite a lot in a way that it does not limit itself to generating only the same content with which it is trained with. It can, the model is trained with huge amount of data, it can actually generate new images, new content which it has never seen even before, which brings a lot of possibility about driving or generating new ideas, gathering key insights from huge amount of data available, which is used to train the generative AI engine. And that increases possibilities in terms of what can be done, to what extent technology can be integrated to different business processes or the customer application horizons. In a nutshell, generative AI engines try to simulate the human-like creativity process. For example, the way we humans can do amazing content writing versus content development, plan development, proposal management, generative AI engines can do the same thing. That was about a quick overview brief on what is generative AI. Now, let's talk about some of the recent popular models. So these are some examples of basic models. In context to images, we'll also have a slide in context to language models as well. In context to images, all the deep learning algorithms are built on the top of neural networks. Artificial neural networks, now, again, depending on your background, you may or may not be knowing this terminology, but then there's just a contextual idea that almost all the algorithms in deep learning are actually built on the top of neural networks. Neural networks are foundational algorithms behind all the deep learning techniques. Primarily, they follow the idea of performing multiple level and multi-level, multi-layer computations using linear equations. Neural networks can learn very complex relationship between any input data and can solve any complex process if programmed effectively. Today, we use multiple variants of neural network for different set of tasks. Some of the key variants in generative AI space include variational encoders, which are widely used in order to generate images, faces. Variational encoders can also learn that if you want to generate, maybe make a person wear specs, so you create a vector of specs and the model can generate the same person with specs. Similar way, generative adversarial networks have also gained a lot more popularity in last 6 years around the ability of GNs to generate almost real world images, which is difficult for humans to differentiate that whether this image is actually generated or is it real. These are some of the generative AI models in context to image. Similar way, there are generative AI models in context to text data as well and audio, video as well. Some of the applications of generative AI include today, generative AI is widely being explored and used across the space of art and design, where it is used to create artworks, patterns, designs, and slipping quite a lot creators to push the boundaries and generate even more content, engage with users, as well as be more efficient at doing what they are good at doing. Same way, music composition is another example. How is it being used today? It helps in generating new musical pieces versus exploring different genres and styles as well. Furthermore, virtual world creation, the world of metaverse, is heavily being backed or being pushed, triggered, accelerated with the help of generative AI abilities, generating creatures versus generating the imaginary world, text, language, interactions. Everything can be done very effectively with generative AI, which was earlier thought of very complex thing to achieve with limited technological expertise available with generative AI, this has uh, become even more easier. Similar to this, there are many applications that are being built and explored today. Organizations across different domains, such as healthcare to automobile manufacturing to service, banking, finance, telecom to education, all of them have been exploring multiple ways to integrate generative AI with the business processes to improve the efficiency and achieve operational efficiency across the processes. The other is content generation. From writing automated articles to personalized product descriptions, creating customized market campaigns to very personalized email campaigns for every user, generative AI is being used quite a lot in this space at a very drastic level. Along with these applications, there are many, uh, depending on the type of industry versus the set of business processes, generative AI is being explored and used at a very vast level. One of the recently developed and of very talkative space of generative AI has been language models. which primarily refers to models which can understand language quite well and generate text. A very good example of generative AI language model is GPT, which is widely being used as backend of, which is mainly being used as backend for ChatGPT. So, what are language models? A language model is a computer program which can help, which can generate more of a human-like language. A language model can learn how humans communicate, what's the pattern of a data set, what's this text, how text generation happens, versus how contexts are being put. Why are language models quite popular and being effectively used? The reason is language models are very efficient, at least the modern day language models are very efficient at complex tasks such as language translation to text summarization, answering questions, generating content versus classifying content as well. What are the different types of language models widely being used? So language models are of multiple segments. Very popular language model in recent few years has been transformer model. Majority of the recent developments, starting from BERT, GPT, many others in recent time, including T5, are actually built on the top of transformer-based models. Transformer-based model uses a very popular mechanism. If you are from technology background, you want to explore the research paper by Google AI on attention-based mechanism. Super interesting it is as a note to explore around how exactly language models work. Context to language models, there's another terminology, large language models. Large language models are language models which are super heavy in size. They carry huge number of parameters and are trained with very huge amount of data, unimaginable to train on a local computer. So ideally, large language models are the language models trained on massive amount of data with billions, even trillions of parameters. Parameters are uh, in technical language, weights and bias, which is more like the knowledge of algorithm, right? Some of the very popular large language models include GPT-3, T5. How large they are when we say large language models? Example of large language model could be, let's say, a model with somewhere around 100 million parameters can be considered as a small language model, but large language models may have parameters more than 150 billions. With the availability of such heavy parameter and the model which has been trained with billions of records, it becomes possible for large language models to achieve utmost accuracy at very complex tasks such as language translation, summarization, conversation, even writing codes to performing a specific process. Can do tons of tasks, including brainstorming to content creation, content generation, and creating a plan. Some of the very popular pre-trained, that means the one which are already trained with huge amount of data, large language models include GPT. So pre-trained large language models are quite beneficial because developing LLMs from scratch is very expensive. Computationally, it is not feasible for many organizations to do. That's why most organizations prefer using pre-trained LLMs, which is trained by, let's say, OpenAI or Google or any other organization on huge amount of data. Then that's open sourced, so it can be used, fine-tuned for us any specific task. So today, organizations primarily focus a lot on using pre-trained LLMs and customizing that for any specific task. A very popular pre-trained LLM is GPT, Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It is built by OpenAI and very popular in recent 1 year or 2 years for its ability to generate content and diverse amount of paragraph. One of the very early day large language model was built by Google, which is BERT, bidirectional encoder representation from transformers. So essentially, if you look at GPT and BERT are very similar, built on the similar approach of transformers. Key thing is GPT is a decoder based model and BERT is an encoder based model because Google's focus initially was primarily to improve the ability of Google search engine. So they a lot of effort in improving the encoder, which can accept our queries and do a better vector contextual representation and identify key search. So Google's LLMs are very expert at understanding natural language, whereas OpenAI has been focusing primarily on generating natural language. Another uh, popular LLM by Google is T5, which is also quite popular today for text to text translation or text to text generation. All of these LLMs can also be used in an open source way. So it's not something that one has to use always ChatGPT to be able to use GPT. GPT-3 and its prior versions are also available for free to use via APIs, Hugging Face API, and few other API, including PyTorch and Transform TensorFlow, has the integration available for multiple pre-trained LLMs. That was about technology part. In nutshell, all of the modern day generative AI developments that we see in contextual language are actually built on the top of pre-trained LLMs, which have been developed from last 5, 6 years. So this technology hasn't just emerged yesterday, right? It's been there to research and pipeline in consumption as well for more than 7 to 8 years. Now, some of the challenges with LLMs include at times LLMs can be biased because LLMs are trained with huge amount of data available over internet, and data available on internet can have multiple biases, including cultural and gender biases as well. And the model trained with that can actually inherit those biases very easily. Second challenge of LLMs include LLMs are computationally very expensive, and which brings a challenge to makes it difficult to fine tune and retrain or train it from scratch. The other challenge associated with LLMs include interpretability. LLMs are black box model. That means you can't see what process was followed internally to arrive to a certain conclusion or generate a specific content, which makes it difficult for end user to be able to understand the mindset of LLM. And that's where the concept of prompt engineering comes in effectively. So the very popular applications of LLM include widely being used in marketing for generating personalized product recommendations, creating compelling copy and slogans, automating social media marketing, email marketing, SEO management as well. LLMs are also widely being used across healthcare segment for in order to extract insights from huge amount of research papers, scientific research papers, medical research papers, gathering insights from patient history or patient symptoms or data which was used for testing. Healthcare organizations are also testing the ability of LLMs for developing and testing new drugs and vaccines as well. Additionally, finance is also one of the segment which is using LLMs for forecasting market trends, also performing sentiment analysis on news and articles, and improving fraud detection as well. These are some of the key and popular applications of LLMs today, but there are many. Gen AI in context to image and text is also widely being used and focused a lot by organizations in order to generate new content. New content could include generating articles, writing articles of innovative ideas or work, summarizing articles as well. Two, using image-based Gen AI capability to generate landscape images or graphics or artworks. Generating voice, generating AI-based voice for assistant applicants and also human-like assistant as well. So today, Gen AI has evolved a lot and is widely being experimented for new content generation across all the three segments: text, image, and audio. This is about a quick summary on what is generative AI, how is it being used across industries for different applications, and the potential use cases associated. Now we'll shift on to one of the key topic today, and that is prompt engineering, which is again associated with generative AI, but it's primarily about the art of using Gen AI more effectively. Previous segment was primarily around understanding what is Gen AI and how is it being developed. But as a user who is going to use Gen AI abilities, you need to learn effectively what is prompt engineering and how to do that effectively, right? So prompt engineering is an art of using technology. It's more like the way some people are expert in speaking well, asking right questions. Prompt engineering is about developing that capability to interact with Gen AI models. Think of prompt engineering as a skill similar to a counselor skill. So you learn quite a well, by learning prompt engineering, you learn quite a well how to rightly communicate and get the right answers from a LLM or any other Gen AI solution. So it's about art of crafting precise and effective prompts, guide the Gen AI models in generating desired output. In last multiple quarters, there were multiple internet articles and talks about ChatGPT fails on so and so situation. Well, that is because the prompt written was not precise. Although there are definitely limitations to what any large language models like GPT can do and cannot do, or can do effectively or cannot do effectively. But besides that, the overall performance of how precise and desired output that you get heavily depends on how well crafted your prompt is. So let's talk about prompt engineering more in this segment. So first thing, let's start with looking at an example of prompt engineering actually. So here, the input to the Gen AI model is design a robot that assists human in their everyday tasks, enhancing their quality of life, right? So this is an example of prompt which can uh, be given to a Gen AI model and it can come up and with a specific design. Similarly, generate an abstract artwork that invokes a sense of tranquility and wonder. And you may expect something of the sort. Similarly, imagine a futuristic cityscape that represents utopian vision of society, right? So these are certain examples of how a prompt can look like and potentially accordingly what sort of output to expect out of the Gen AI. Well, so Nutshell, if you try to summarize the understanding to what is prompt engineering is a way of writing effective prompts to achieve the most qualitative outcome for the task that you're doing. A generic example could be consider an HR manager is trying to create a job description. One way they would manually write the job description, get it reviewed from multiple touch points, and that consumes a lot of time in finalizing the job description for a specific role. Given that, if they know prompt engineering quite effectively, writing a precise descriptive prompt to a generative AI engine, it can generate more precise job description as of out of it, which will have very less chances of modifications and very less chances of modifications and approvals compared to creating manual prompt compared to creating manual job description. It's an example of how it can be used effectively. So writing good prompt is very important to get the right outcome out of the Gen AI model. In order to improve the efficiency, what is more important to use generative AI? And in order to use generative AI effectively, what matters even more is to write good prompts. Well-crafted prompt eh, can significantly result in very qualitative outcome out of the Gen AI engine. And a very qualitative outcome will reduce your time of reviewing, editing, and refinalizing it. Right. For example, if I spend 5 minutes in crafting the prompt rightly, it would save my 30 minutes of editing the outcome of a Gen AI model. So writing a perfect prompt improves the overall accuracy and creativity of a generated output from the Gen AI. Some of the examples of good prompts could be like this: generate a painting of a sunset over the ocean with the vibrant colors and diagonal composition. So you're specifying exactly the components versus how those components should look like. That's an example. Well, the art of prompt engineering again can be learned in more effective manner. So there are certain concepts which help in standardizing how a prompt should actually look like. Good prompts are often very clear, concise, and specific in terms of what you're expecting. Let's talk about some of the recent trends and advancements in context of prompt engineering. Right. So in recent years or recent, I would say year at all, right? Generative AI has been seen as a technology which will disrupt almost every business vertical and bring a revolution in terms of how technology is being used, how humans are involved into different business processes, and human efficiency is actually being achieved. Almost all the major organizations in different segments have started doing state-of-art research in order to identify how can they evolve and their processes can evolve and get impacted with the adoption or not adoption of generative AI capabilities. So this technology has recently brought a huge disruption across almost all verticals, not only verticals or not only businesses, also individuals, employees to different professionals, customers to organization, government bodies to business owners, every of them. If you talk about a quick short idea on how the future of Gen AI actually looks like, before we go ahead and look at an example of prompt engineering in general, in the incoming years, we can expect a lot of new real world applications which can help in performing multiple tasks which we have been doing manually. For example, let's say creating this PPT for this webinar could be actually easily done after a certain time. In fact, now also it can be done with a Gen AI model, right? Uh, to maybe performing different tasks associated with managing devices, equipment, coordinating with people, coordinating with machines or robots as well. With these possible advancements and integrations, there are also concerns with context to the bias and malicious use of generative AI capability as well, which potentially has a huge potential of significant risk to industry, society, and a common person. But at the same time, if rightly being used in a efficient manner, it has amazing, promising future associated with it in terms of what possibilities it can open up to the organizations, individuals across the world. Now, one of the Gen AI, we all sort of have, majority of us would have got introduced to the world of generative AI with the name of one tool that has brought huge revolution in the recent time, that is Chat GPT. So let's talk about that over here in the slide. So ChatGPT is a generative AI engine backed by a large language model, that is GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, which is trained with huge amount of data. So the platform is trained with huge amount of textual data, and it is super capable in performing tasks such as text generation, translation, and summarization. In addition to generative AI engine, it is also integrated with multiple ML and AI capabilities, which does the job of content moderation to task classification. And so it's not only a GPT engine backed up, it's not only a GPT engine backed up in the backend, it's integrated with multiple other models as well. Furthermore, ChatGPT can API can be also fine-tuned to perform multiple different tasks. Today, we are using it from code writing to debugging, writing poems, songs, and articles, and creating plans and proposals for different business purposes. These are some of the very popular applications around ChatGPT, starting from text generation to generating dialogues for different applications, translating language, summarizing huge amount of text, classifying text into multiple buckets, answering questions, creating question answering system, and completing text. ChatGPT is being experimented, used across different domains today, and multiple applications on the top of Gen AI are emerging up in recent year. Some of the examples of prompt. Now we can talk about some of the examples of prompt engineering. So here's an example of writing a normal prompt versus a precise prompt. For example, to want to clear the outcome. So one example could be write a product description for a new water bottle. The other could be write product description for new water bottle. This is 100% recycled. Be sure to include that it comes in a natural color with no dyes. Each purchase removes 10 pounds of plastic from the oceans. That's more about, in addition to being specific about a task, being more clear and precise about what are the other additional features of the water bottle. So this is an example of how well a prompt can be crafted by means of providing clear instructions to it. Similarly, also structuring your prompts with different other components. So these are different capabilities in terms of what can be done effectively with Gen AI engine, prompt engineering, in order to get even more effective outcome. So using different markers such as hyphens or hashes to separate out text chunks versus providing user persona to also grounding content in order to define the scope of questions, allowing the model to think about it, or using multiple shots of prompts, different capabilities which help in improving the effectiveness of a prompt. Another similar example is chain of thought, right? So instead of providing a summarized version of the prompt, we can split the whole task into multiple steps. So let's say an example could be, instead of writing what sport is easiest to learn but hardest to matter, give a step-by-step approach of your thought ending your answer. So this is one example of a prompt. The better example could be step one, identify the criteria for easy to learn and hard to master sports. Step two, consider different sports that fit in the criteria, tennis, golf, and so on and so forth. Step three, evaluate each sport based on the criteria, make a decision based on the evaluation. So that's an example of how step by step the GPT engine should follow in order to conclude finding out. So these are examples of how important it is to learn and understand the context of prompt engineering in order to be able to consume Gen AI in a more effective manner. Otherwise, it turns out to be a bit of loss attempt in case if you use ineffective way of using Gen AI engine. Even if you use it, it would add a lot of time for you to keep adding out or modifying the content generated from Gen AI engine. So this was nutshell idea to understanding prompt engineering and overview idea to generative AI. So the best practices for prompt engineering include being clear and specific about the task, provide diverse examples to the Gen AI engine so that it can understand and interpret the scenario even more effectively, and iteratively keep refining the prompt after evaluating the output so as to ensure that the model understand the expectation quite well. So what from now? Coming up in near future, you can expect Gen AI being used quite a lot across different segments, including virtual reality, improving the ability of healthcare, providing last mile healthcare qualitative solution, and transforming the capabilities around smart city transformation as well. And many more, almost all the product SaaS platforms are integrating Gen AI in some other way with the platform in order to improve the overall user experience. So that was about overall understanding to what is Gen AI. In nutshell, we talk about what is AI today. We understood that AI is about making computers being able to imitate the human intelligence used across different segments such as healthcare, finance, and e-commerce. Generative AI, in a nutshell, is a way to build machine learning models which can generate content or images. Prompt engineering is a standard practice of creating better prompts so as to get desired output from generative AI solutions. It is important to consider the ethical considerations, unbiased practices, and use generative AI capabilities in a more rightful manner to be able to get the right outcome out of it. In the future, you can expect multiple enhancement with generative AI, integration of it with segments such as virtual reality, advanced healthcare, smart city transformation, and also transformations across different product and service segments as well. So this was a nutshell idea to generative AI and prompt engineering. Now we'll open the floor for questions. You also go ahead and check out if you have posted any questions in the chat. Well, you all can post your questions in the chat as well. Here's a question to start with. Can I use GPT's API free of cost to design application and AI-based model? Are there any limit associated with it in terms of users and credits? Well, the latest version, which is not available, 3.5 or 4, but GPT 2 and 3 is available over Hugging Face API to use. Then you can use that with PyTorch as well. You can download the model, use it, but you will have to make a lot of modifications. You can't expect as good as accuracy as the one that you get with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is also a lot more modification on the top of GPT's GPT 3.5 and 4. So yep, GPT version 2 is available free to use, download and modify that over Hugging Face API. Studying prompt engineering, it's instead of focusing on specific industry, understanding more about how exactly the generative AI model understands, interprets the content, and how to be precise about providing context. For example, learning that you need to provide a persona and then you need to provide the context, give an example of task, and then provide the format of output that you need. So that's a step-by-step structure on how to ask a Gen AI engine to write or create effective solution. Learning that matters more compared to aligning it to industry. For sure, there are different solutions on industry wise. For example, how to write better prompts for HR managers versus different others. But then the initial approach should not be industry focused. It should be more on understanding what kind of prompts work better versus how to standardize the prompt engineering for any Gen AI engine.
Hello, Anshu.
Yeah,
Anshu,
hi.
this is Nikhil. Nikhil here. I'm from Morningstar. So basically, my question is, how much secure it is? Like, I have seen some of the companies are blocking ChatGPT in their company websites because people are, trying to copy and paste the whole code inside the chat gpt, and then they start asking what is wrong with this
Yep.
code or something like that.
So
So
that's where,
my question, my basic question
yes.
is, what kind of security awareness we should have while we are using these kind of generative AI or um, chat gpt, this stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. So the answer to that, you are right, and this is actually a real problem. It's been a real problem, but it's no more. Uh, 10 days back, OpenAI has launched OpenAI Enterprise. With OpenAI Enterprise, they created a Chat GPT subscription specifically for enterprise, which enterprises can buy for their employees. And with that, they have integrated all the standard security methods, and the data or the questions asked within the OpenAI Enterprise subscription will not be used to retrain the model. So in the individual subscription, whatever data that we provide versus questions that we ask, those are actually being used to retrain the model. But the enterprise subscription, they have limited it that it is not being used. So that's how OpenAI has been coming up a lot with identifying different solutions to meet the enterprise need, considering the constraints with enterprises.
Okay, Anshu, I have a follow-up question. So if I'm taking an enterprise support, my data won't be shared with any of the AI company that I'm currently using
Correct.
for.
Right now, even
Uh,
OpenAI does not share data with somebody else, but they use that data to
mhm,
retrain the model. But if you use enterprise, they will not
mhm.
even use it for retraining.
Yes, I understood that point, but do they kind of provide a different data set which is not accessible to even them as well? For example, if I'm using a database, okay, and I'm not using any SaaS model, I will just put that database on one of the on-prem server, or any of the AWS server where I only have the login to that specific one. Is that something that they will be providing, or they are just saying that no, we won't be using your data in case you are using enterprise server? I
Yeah,
hope you got my
it's
question.
primarily like So first thing, Gen AI engines are not data oriented. It's a model which is trained with a lot of parameter. So when we
Hmm.
use OpenAI Enterprise versus OpenAI General, the
Hmm.
underlying model remains the same, but
Hmm.
how the model will be retrained with the user's data, that differs, right? So let's say
Hmm.
when I ask a question with a generic OpenAI ChatGPT subscription, it would record my question and data and answers as well, whether I regenerate the answers or not. All of those actions are being recorded. Those actions are used to retrain the model again. Then in enterprise subscription, our data is not being used to retrain the model. So it simply gives that level of security. OpenAI has been evolving a lot with different changes. In future, they might come up with different other versions as well in context to this. Similarly, Azure has also started OpenAI service in which they are also going to launch quite soon as per the plan. the OpenAI on-prem infrastructure as well. That's the plan is still in the pipeline.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Arjun.
So this is one question. Where do
Hi
you suggest
Anshu,
that I start? Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Please.
Swarnika here. I got to know that people are creating softwares, mobile applications, and use database structures through generative AI. Is it true? I wanted to know if it is the how they are doing so.
Yeah, so OpenAI ChatGPT is not only available via ChatGPT. So OpenAI has three products primarily. One is ChatGPT, the other is DALL-E, which is for images. The third is Open API. So when you say OpenAI API, they provide the access to OpenAI via application key, and you can integrate that API to any application of yours. For example, if I have application like Canva, where I can create images. So OpenAI integration would help me simply creating a plugin for Canva, and I can write any prompt and it can generate the design. So instead of me manually going to Canva and creating a design, the OpenAI engine creates a description for the whole design. So yes, SaaS platforms, web portals are evolving at a very fast rate with OpenAI integration.
Where
And
do you
that is
get
happening via
started with
API.
AI?
Yeah, that is happening via API integration with OpenAI. And not only OpenAI API integration, there are a lot of other pre-trained, freely available models as well, which needs a bit of more fine tuning in order to make it more context specific or industry specific. Those are also being used, experimented across industries to be integrated in order to save cost around OpenAI consumption.
Hi, this is Sharon. I had a question for you. Where would you suggest someone start if they wanted to get into prompt engineering? Where would you begin your study?
Well, there are multiple options. One of the good option I would suggest is Coursera has a course on generative AI prompt engineering by Andrew G. That's a good to start. I mean, good point to start out with.
You say by Apogee?
Yeah, it is freely available.
Thank you.
So, which is the best LLM that is open source? GPT P5, BERT, all of these are GPT lower versions are good. These are three quite widely used today. There are application specific LLMs as well, which you can use. For example, let me show you a screen. If you Google simply Hugging Face, will land up here. And this is a very popular repository for multiple large language models. And you can go to the model segment and search for multiple. So for example, I want to use GPT. So you'll see multiple versions of GPT, right? That are available open source freely that you can use. For example, let's say I want to do language translation from English to French. So I can go ahead and simply search for English to French. Here is a model which does the English to French. And I can simply start using it with the library from Transformers import pipeline and start consuming that out. Also, they have provided an example that you can use here. So Hugging is a pretty good repository. dfhub.dev, where you can find a lot of freely available LLMs that you can integrate into your any application. I can find it for text, image. These are all pre-trained models such as BERT, mobile BERT, a lot of it, right? Huge chunk of repositories. So that's an example, right? And I mean, that's the answer question. How sure we are not going to, we are not doing plagiarism if we get data using ChatGPT? Well, very sure, because ChatGPT does not generate data from a database. There's no database stored in the backend. It has learned and it generates data from scratch. So high likely that at max you can have maybe a line or hardly 10 words in a sequence plagiarized, which could be very common. This means that it should happen like this. So such common words would be because it's primarily generating. So you see if you understand underlying architecture, and you will understand the better why it's not plagiarized, because internally it is encoder which is converting your prompt into a context, and the context is used to generate a decoder. So every time you generate a decoder, you may get a different answer to it. For example, if you use ChatGPT and you click on regenerate, every time it gives you a different answer, not the same, right? So that's an example. It doesn't copy it from any database. Augmented reality needs AI in order to be effective in future. For sure, it needs a lot of it. Can you name some of the free training models that we checked out just now? So Generative AI can be useful in software testing or the Generative AI tools that are available for testing. Well, I may not be sure about the exact tools, but it's widely used in testing in order to write test cases, program test cases, validate test cases, or analyze the results of test cases in order to generate a summary and trigger out of it. What are your top choices of extensions? Well, I've been using some of them. For example, I recently started using gamma.app. I like that. It's kind of generates good web APIs. I have also used this with ChatGPT plugins. There's one called Design Me, which kind of generates good images. ChatGPT, its own integration of advanced code analysis is something that I've been liking quite a lot. What's the future of prompt engineering? Prompt engineering, I see in next few years is going to become an important skill, as important skill as Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, or Excel. So how important it is to learn Excel for anyone in the world? That important it would be for anyone to learn how to do prompt engineering. As a
Are
role,
the
I don't see a
salaries
lot
that
more. Yeah,
for the
please go ahead.
prompt engineer, I see a lot of really, really extremely high salaries for that. Are those blown up just for social media, or is there any truth to those salaries?
Well, that was my next statement. Just was where I stopped. So I don't see a lot more growth, as in the way it is a hype. I don't see a lot more growth in terms of role specifically as a prompt engineer role, because in order to do effective prompt engineering, one needs to know domain. For example, without coming from programming background, I can't use ChatGPT to write a software. I have to be from a software engineering background to be able to write a software using ChatGPT. So that brings me the idea that prompt engineering has to be an important skill set. Roles would be there, but then the quantity of such roles are not going to grow like anything, or are not going to grow very in a very generalized manner. But the skill is going to become very essential for almost everyone to have.
Got
Uh,
it. Thank you.
I see a lot of black box uh, posts on social media. So, what's the overall concept of the black box? Is it good to like for developers and programmers? Is it helpful?
I didn't get your question. So you mean black box?
Yeah, there's an
You're referring
AI
to?
called a black box. I see a lot of posts on social media about it, and I haven't quite tried
Okay.
it yet, but I've heard that it is very helpful for developers and programmers. Is it true,
So
and how is it helpful?
the tool is evolving still, right? Yes, use blackbox.io is the tool, and it's evolving still. Even I haven't been using a lot, but yes, I have tried out certain times. It's faster, it's a good assistant. But then the only challenge that I see with such tools is that programming and tools and software keep changing as the version upgrades, as the security patches gets updated, and how fast this tool is going to be able to evolve with that change. That's a question. If that evolution happens at a good rate, this tool is going to be a good bet for developers across the world. So this is a question around this is the link in case you need. Yeah, somebody's mentioned already. Thank you, Gregor. Well, that was it. So, programmer, what needs to learn from prompt engineering? For a programmer, you need to learn how to use prompt engineering effectively to validate your code, to create a code skeleton versus as a user persona, Bhumi. And the second could be as a programmer, you need to learn how to integrate ChatGPT API or OpenAI API with the software in order to create effective solutions at the end. For example, let's say if I'm creating a web portal for HRs or a web portal for marketers. Now, as a programmer, if I know how to integrate ChatGPT, instead of creating a feature of write your marketing campaign, I would generate a marketing campaign for them and ask them to validate it. So that's how I can generate amazing user experiences if I use effectively the OpenAI API with the software that I write. That's one persona or consumption of prompt engineering for software developers. The second is doing my own job effectively. That's where generating a lot of raw content, validation, error handling, to brainstorming, idea generation, planning, architecting can be done quite well with Gen AI engines. Well, so that is it, everyone. I hope you're good so far, right? And so with this part, we'll take a pause, right? We'll take a pause. Thank you all for joining the webinar. I hope you would have liked it.